Today's conversation is on why many entrepreneurs fail as a result of not considering this one thing that I would like to explore with you today. So I have worked with thousands of businesses as a consultant since 2013. I've also built my own business to success from scratch from 2009 to 13, an IT business. I got into consulting in 2013 and have worked with thousands of businesses since. I also started a YouTube channel in 2013, which I also built to success. At the time of creating this video here, it has over 400,000 subscribers, and it's a full-fledged business. If you're interested in that YouTube channel, I'll link in the description to it. So, entrepreneurs fail not because they lack ideas. They have many ideas. Every entrepreneur that I meet has many ideas. It's not about the ideas. What I have found is that they don't choose the business model that is the most natural, effortless, fun, and flow-based for them to see that idea into fruition. That's what I would like to explore with you today. And they don't remain consistent in seeing it into fruition because they might not be aware of, or they don't value, pivoting, optimization, automation, delegation, elimination, in part or in whole or in combination. By valuing these areas, what we're talking about here, this is how I built 3 successful businesses and have made many millions of dollars. And this is what I would like to share with you today with our mind map titled From Idea to $1 Million, The Path of Consistency and Success. Now, if you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description, and I'll also notify you of my upcoming book that I'm writing on the topic of entrepreneurship. Being an entrepreneur now for 16 years, plus also, as mentioned, working with thousands of businesses and being very fascinated in consulting and discussions in areas of innovation, sales, marketing, operations, finance, and leadership. So today we're going to discuss choosing your style of business model with your idea. We can, if you would like, talk about generating ideas and choosing specific ideas to move forward with in an upcoming video if you'd like. If you have any questions or if you have any topic ideas you would like me to cover, you can leave a comment below and then I will include it in the upcoming videos. So, choosing your style of business. Now, I like to work with questions. These are some of the questions that I would ask myself if I already have an idea, or let's say even to come up with ideas. This can be applied here. These are the kinds of questions that, let's say, during sessions with aspiring entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs that are established that would like to get involved with new businesses or expand their business. These are some of the questions that I ask. Choosing your style. I have categorized it as self-discovery, environment, challenge, financial goals, business model, and offering. So this is going to give us clarity to choose our business model. In a previous video, we talked about how we can create offers and then acquire, let's say, clients, also generate prospects so that we can acquire clients. We also touched a bit upon generating ongoing business from existing clients, which has generated me many millions of dollars doing so over the years in the 3 businesses. If you would like to know more about those areas, I'll link in the description to those videos. They were wonderful discussions. Again, all based on personal experience. Everything that I share on this channel here is based on my personal experience. So great questions to ask. Number 1, I categorize self-discovery. what skills do people often compliment me on? See, for me, it was an easy transition to start an IT business. Prior to that, I worked 10 years in corporate. Prior to being in corporate, when I was growing up, I was very good with computers. I'm still good with computers. Family and friends used to ask me to come over and remove their viruses, fix their network issues, install new printers, etc. It was something that I was constantly being asked to do. And it was something that I genuinely enjoyed doing. And they would compliment me on my ability to be able to do that. I was also very good with just looking at various challenges or troubleshooting, we call it, problems, and coming up with creative solutions. So this is something that I get complimented a lot. When I get brought into businesses, they say, how did you come up with that solution? How did you come up with that idea? We never thought of that before. So you may ask yourself, what skills, what abilities that you have, which are valuable, which can be turned into businesses, people compliment you on. The next one is, what tasks do I lose track of time doing? So again, going back to my example, when I would be at my friend's house working on their computers, or at my family's house working on their computers, I didn't think of it as working. I genuinely had a lot of fun doing. And sometimes hours would go by if I was installing a new operating system or something like that. And I genuinely enjoyed doing it. And even on my own computer at home, I would invest many hours taking apart the computer, installing the operating system, and doing things that, let's say, people might say, why are you even doing that? You don't need to do that again and again. Why are you tinkering around with the software, etc.? It seems like you're investing far more time into fixing the computer and setting it up and so forth, rather than actually using it for homework, etc. And I said, you know what, I genuinely like doing it. Now, I've also invested a lot of time, we could say, in conversations with entrepreneurs. I genuinely enjoy having conversations about sales, marketing, operations, finance, and leadership. As a matter of fact, I created 5 programs. If you're interested in those, I'll link in the description to them. And it's a full suite for entrepreneurs, different areas of entrepreneurs, learning and teaching, which can be applied for leadership. We got the entrepreneurial program, the productivity program, the communication program, and the subconscious mind program to bring awareness to limiting beliefs and release identification to them. And over the years, I have had many of these kinds of conversations. Even in my friendships, romantic relationships, there have been many of these kinds of conversations that we both mutually enjoyed. And yes, you know what? I would lose track of time. This is where I would have a lot of fun. So we could see then it is natural for me to make YouTube videos. You might consider asking yourself the same question. Where do you lose track of time? Where are you in flow, let's say, is another way of looking at this question. Where do I lose time? Not really losing time, we could say investing time, but this is a good way of framing it. Time flies. Where is it? What are you doing? And so for me, it was very natural to go into consulting. It was very natural for me to have these videos. And these videos can be very lengthy. Yet, over the course on my other YouTube channel, I have received hundreds and hundreds of emails and DMs and messages over the years from people that have applied my information to become millionaires, build successful businesses, wonderful lifestyle, wonderful harmonious relationship. And all I do is, you could say, lose track of time making videos. The next is, what problems do people ask me to help them solve? So it could be, can you help me with this graphic design on my website or something like that? I have a number of friends actually that build successful web design businesses and agencies by providing services that people would ask them to do. And some were even involved with another business. And then people would ask them, can you do my social media? You're very good with social media. And what they found was an opportunity to do social media for this individual, which was their friend, who happened to be an entrepreneur. And they're very good at it. They started to get referrals, and that ended up turning into a business. So they ended up putting aside their primary business to build an agency around providing social media content, support, etc. Another question is, what subjects or industries have always fascinated me? So, me, for example, I love logistics. I did 10 years in corporate IT. And for the last 5 years, I was actually in the warehouse management system logistics side of IT, putting together the wireless networks. And I was actually, and I still am, genuinely fascinated by logistics. I like watching videos on YouTube on Amazon fulfillment, and I like to know how warehouses were run. Even when I was 17 years old, and I used to have these jobs where I would work in warehouses, and I found that I genuinely enjoyed it. I genuinely enjoyed watching how everything was being run, and so it was a fascination of mine. And this later on was playing a role in my IT business as I was brought into companies to consult on their technology plus their logistics. Next is, what type of work feels effortless yet fulfilling? What type of work feels effortless yet fulfilling? I know another person who makes videos while painting. And they have an audience, people that are interested in their style of content creation, which is them doing what they love to do. They effortlessly paint. And they have conversations with their audience while they're making these videos. Isn't that interesting? Next question is, what challenges do I naturally enjoy solving? What challenges do I naturally enjoy solving? So one of the things that we find is when we're having conversations with people, there might be particular challenges that they bring up that light us up. Not because, let's say, they have the challenge, but because we see the challenge as an opportunity. We see the challenge as something where we could provide an insight, a perspective, a tool, or something that we've discovered in a way that can benefit them. And as a matter of fact, they benefit greatly from it. Next is, if I had unlimited money, what business would I still choose to do? Another great question. One of my favorite questions. See, when I acquired financial freedom, I realized that I didn't need to do the work that I was doing anymore, or be involved with any business or any job, essentially. Yet, I find I genuinely enjoy consulting, coaching, making videos, and creating content online. So here I am, for example, in Mexico. You'll see the background is different than our previous videos. And I come here quite frequently, multiple times a year. I hang out, go to the beach, hang out with friends, do things here. Yet I also find that here I am making a video to post on my channel about entrepreneurship because I love it. I love talking about entrepreneurship, and let's say I could just maybe sit by the pool for the next hour or so, which is totally fine. I do that at times. Yet I also love doing this right here. It is something that feels effortless, fun. I also like the mental stimulation. In 2017, I was in Playa del Carmen, Mexico for 2 weeks, and I wasn't really doing much. And then I asked myself the question, when was I the happiest, having the most fun, joyous, etc.? It was while I was in flow state. So in 2017, and I discussed this a lot in my primary YouTube channel, I said, what if I make flow a priority? What if I make flow a priority? And that's what I did. So part of making flow a priority is doing the things that I find that I naturally enjoy doing. And it just so happens to be that I love entrepreneurship and specific tasks, specific projects that can be turned into entrepreneurial ventures. So I'm doing that right now, and you could do the same as well. And why this is helpful is because, let's say, if it is challenging, or let's say at particular times things don't appear to go your way, you'll still show up and do whatever tasks, projects, because you genuinely enjoy the steps. You genuinely enjoy the tasks. You genuinely enjoy the project. So we could say it's not just about the money. It's also about doing what you love to do so that you physically feel great. Emotionally, you're regulated. Mentally, you're stimulated. And in relation to that, another great question, what activities make me feel the most energized? What activities make me feel the most energized? So for me, it's conversations with people. I love having conversations with people. I feel energized having conversations with people. It was one of my favorite aspects of the IT business. Yes, when I was actually integrating the solutions, I was by myself. Yet my favorite was when I was working with the clients and their team members, doing the consultative sales. And that was actually why I ended up transitioning away from my IT business and getting into consulting. Because then I could focus exclusively on the conversations, the one-on-one, the public speaking, the group conversations, and any kind of fulfillment or any work that, let's say, needs to be done, I could delegate. And while that could be done in IT, I also took it, let's say, a step further and found that where I genuinely had the most fun, I was having fun in IT for many years and technology in many years, but where I was experiencing even more fun was discussing the sales, the marketing, the operation, the finance, the leadership, the innovation based on personal experience. Because I found that there were many entrepreneurs that were consuming books, videos, online, information, and they were trying out all these things and it wasn't working for them. And they didn't know if that information was based on real practical experience or some interesting theories. And so what I shared with them, and I mentioned, this is all what I share based on personal experience of building the successful businesses. We even explore what my clients have done that I help facilitate. And they found those conversations to be very effective because we could say they were looking for those that were talking about what they were doing based on results. So very specifically, we could say, very, very specifically, I enjoyed talking about my personal experiences, building the businesses, and I found that to be very energizing. So one example of just how powerful this question is right here is I noticed that the more, generally speaking, conversations that I'm involved with, I do have time for myself. It's not just me having conversations with people. The more conversations I have, the more content I create, and it could be online, offline, group, etc. I generally get more and more energized. Now, this might be not the case for you. This might be the case for me to, let's say, to a high degree in contrast with other people, which is totally fine. These kinds of questions are great questions to ask because, let's say, it's not about connecting with people. Maybe you enjoy working in solitude, working on your project, etc. One way is not better than another. So what I did was I tracked my time. And I actually found that on average, in a week, I might do about 25 in my business initiatives, one-on-one consulting, making videos, presentations, 25 hours in those areas. And that doesn't include the conversations that I have with team members, vendors, and also people when I'm out and about, like for example, in Mexico, meeting people here and there. So those are self-discovery questions. Then we have environment questions. So again, we're looking at good questions to ask to determine our business model and also to stimulate specific aspects of our idea that we can incorporate into business model. So for example, let's say you want to get involved with coaching. There are different styles of coaching. There are different industries that you can coach in. There are different ways that you could deliver the results, the transformative results. So you could take that idea and you can even segment it into parts that make up the whole and get granular on specific aspects of that idea. And these questions help facilitate it. The next is environment. Do I thrive under structure or prefer flexibility? Do I enjoy working in, we could say, high pressure situations, or do I prefer a steady pace with little or no pressure? Am I most effective in the morning, afternoon, or at night? Do I prefer working from home, in an office, or while traveling? For me, I actually found a combination was ideal. I loved working at the office when I was in corporate. But then I said, it would be great to be able to work from home. And then I was given the opportunities to work from home, and I said, wow, it would be great to run your business from home. And then when I was involved with business, primarily while I was at home, I then realized that my creativity was going down. So I tried working remotely, and that worked out really well. And there were years where I would, on months, be traveling like a digital nomad, we could say, working and running my business while traveling. But then I found that it's actually great for me to have both. Have an ideal ratio of having a home office, a particular ratio of time over there, and then segmenting some of the year to travel and run my business remotely. And that was very stimulating for creativity. Next question is, am I better at focusing on one big project or juggling multiple things? Do you like to have one project or a few projects that you would like to focus on? Or would you like to have a number of projects at the same time and you find that to be very creative or creativity inducing and also allows you to be more effective? See, I trust as we're going through all of this, we're being more nuanced. We're not saying one way is better than another. We're saying your way is the best way. And these are the kind of questions that I never asked myself in the earlier stages of entrepreneurship. They would have been very effective. Over the years, I refined and came up with these questions. And when I work with entrepreneurs, I like to start with these questions or something similar like that. Or you could sit down, for example, the copy of this mind map is available for download in the description. You could download this mind map, open up Xmind, or you can print it out. I share the PDF version as well. And you can ask yourselves these questions. You can put it in your notebook and journal, and that can give you an enormous amount of clarity as to the kind of business model that you can choose based on these questions. So you can really refine your idea into how you personally, your style, your way is the best way. The natural, the fun, the joyous, the flow-based way, your way. How your way can be the way that you generate a lavish, steady, dependable income. A wonderful, whatever it is you would like to make per month. 20,000, 30,000, 10,000, 5,000, whatever it is, part-time, 2,000, 3,000. Do I prefer deep solo work or with a group? How do I feel about managing people? Would I rather work with a large team, a small team, or alone? How do I handle routine tasks? Do I get bored easily? Again, no shame in condemnation. One way is not better than another. Choose your best way. Whatever comes up as the answer for these questions, it's a great path to explore. Do I prefer tackling short-term projects or building long-term systems? Those are environment questions. The next is challenge question. So I personally like challenge at an ideal ratio. Chaos, we could say, at an ideal ratio. If someone's experiencing too much chaos or too much challenge, that might be overwhelming for them. One way is not better than another. Choose your ideal ratio. I like a certain amount where it feels inspiring and stimulating so that I could grow, that I could expand, and then it becomes flow-based. If there's not enough challenge, I get bored, and that's totally fine. If I choose opportunities and projects and business models that are challenging, and then as I acclimate to it and experience flow, I could step up the challenge, and I got a wonderful ratio going, I find I can stay consistent for the long term. To facilitate that, here are some great questions to ask. How comfortable am I with uncertainty? How do I handle financial risk? Am I okay with inconsistent income? And to what degree, you could say. When faced with a big decision, do I act quickly or analyze for a long time? See, there's always an ideal business model that matches your style. If a person, let's say, comes up with quick decisions really fast, then there could be particular business models that would be great for that individual. But let's say another person likes to invest time before they go into a decision. They find that that's their way of doing things. That's totally fine. I don't force them to make a decision. You don't need to force yourself to make a decision. I find that in particular areas, I tend to decide really quick. And in some areas, I like to explore the options. I like to reflect. I like to invest my time before I come up with a decision, which is totally fine. If, let's say, I force myself to go very slow to make a decision in those areas where I make quick decisions, that wouldn't feel natural to me. And let's say if in those areas where I invest more time to come up with a decision, I force myself to make a decision, that wouldn't feel natural for me. That would just generate more stress, unnecessary stress. We're looking for ideal challenge. I always teach the flow-based way, where challenge meets skill. How do you handle failure? Does it motivate you or discourage you? This is a great question to ask, for example, even though I don't see it, there's such thing as failure. It's all opportunity to optimize. But let's say if an individual is doing sales and they're doing maybe 10 or 15 sales calls a day or 20 or 30 sales calls a day, and 80 to 90% of those sales calls don't want to buy the product or service. If they find that to be very troubling day after day, week after week, it could lead to burnout, stress, frustration, because of how they are relating to what appears as rejection, or we could say failure, them not getting the deal. But some sales professionals really love doing that because then they can optimize and they can come up with creative ways to turn that no into yes in a way that's mutually beneficial. They genuinely enjoy doing it. So what is the entrepreneur to do then if they genuinely don't like doing sales? Well, they could hire somebody, they could partner with somebody, and they could focus on the fulfillment, the operations, or the innovation, or whatever area that is what they genuinely love to do. Yet that part is not being neglected. Next is, do I make decisions based on intuition, logic, or both? For me, it's both. I actually relate them both together, intuition and logic. Sometimes I intuitively take a step, and then I can rationalize and say, oh, this is why I took the step. Or sometimes I may pause for a moment and say, why do I feel like taking the step? Let's explore it mentally, and then I understand why I take the step. So I tend to be both, we could say. I may move forward with a decision very fast because I exclusively listen to my intuition. But that might be very jarring for some because that can be fearful. Sometimes intuition, we could say, inspires a step that could be bold. And taking that step can be fearful. That's okay. If we look at it from a logical perspective as to why the individual is doing it, what are the benefits, etc., pros, cons, etc., then they feel better about taking that step and they take the step. Next is, do I need external validation or do I trust my own intuition? Again, there's no problem with, let's say, getting validation from team members, vendors, market, etc. Consider, for example, if an individual puts out content on YouTube, but they constantly need validation. They need people to say, you're the greatest, every video you put out is the best, or compliment them. And if they don't get it, it's very troubling. Then they can actually, I talk about this in my subconscious mind program, they can, if they want to, genuinely put out content. They love doing it. They can bring awareness to these beliefs and release identification to them, so that what happens is they don't seek the external validation. Yet, let's say if particular validation is there for proof of concept, etc., for moving the business forward, they acknowledge it and integrate it in some shape or form. So a harmonious relationship with validation, we could say. But let's say with respect to this question, a person might not even need that. They just move forward with intuition. I tend to be like that. I just move forward with intuition. Steve Jobs was very much known for being like that. I very much enjoyed listening to his commencement speech. I used to listen to it over and over again when I would build my IT business. He said, follow your heart and intuition. Everything else is secondary. Now, that might not make any sense to some individuals. Why would you follow your heart and intuition? Everything else is secondary. Well, consider that those intuitive moves that I made worked out in some shape or form. I didn't need the external validation. Now, if let's say that's too jarring for someone's senses, then they might say, okay, well, it's great to have a team, so I'll consider that. It's great to have a support system. I'll consider that. It's great to perform particular activities. Perhaps this other individual in the team can make the videos on YouTube, and I can play a different role, because they find it too troubling to need this external validation. They find it very excessive to the point where when they put out videos, it's really hard for them every week. So there's a lot of stress, a lot of frustration. Again, in my subconscious mind program, I talk about this. But there are many business models that, let's say, are based on the foundation of just intuitively doing things. Intuitively. And you can even set it up in a way and have your team members and your support in a way where you just continuously put out things. And they take care of optimizing based on feedback from the audience, etc. The next is financial goals. What's my ideal monthly income? Am I comfortable charging high prices for my work? Do I want to make money quickly, or am I okay with a long-term strategy? Or it could be a combination of both. What's my relationship with saving and investing? In relation to all this, what I teach is A, have a lavish, steady, dependable income, consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. This is actually the premise of my flow-based prosperity, group coaching, and mastermind service. Number 2, enjoy a wonderful lifestyle, whatever you consider to be a wonderful lifestyle. And one doesn't need a lot of money to have a wonderful lifestyle. And then invest in the long term. I teach all three because I value all three. Investing in the long term in investments has generated compounding interest for me, which over the course replaced the monthly income, the yearly income, and then it continues to compound. So I value both, and I like to consider all three. Do I want a business that generates active income, passive income, or a mix of both? Again, one way is not better than another. If you choose to have a service-based business because that's what you love to do, and you can see yourself providing the service over the long term, and you're going to take that money and invest it, let's say if you stop doing that business, you still have your investments growing, and you could live off that. If you say, no, I would like to have more of passive income, less active income right from the beginning, let's find those sources, then that's fine as well. Personally, I like a combination of both, and as mentioned, I consider investing as part of a let's say, rounded entrepreneurial way of being. Next is, would I prefer to build wealth over time, aim for a big exit? We can say and/or aim for a big exit by selling the company, or both. What would you like? Some might actually prefer, I have some friends that did it, they built their business according to spec so that it can be acquired, and they cashed out. Some chose not to do that. Some actually set it up like that, let's say very organically. They put SOPs in place, and that was a natural transition. One could say, Joseph, why did you do that with your IT business? Well, let's say if I was to do it again, I would do it that way, but I don't regret the way I did it. What I mean by that is I had an IT company take over a number of clients. I had a number of companies actually take over my clients, but it wasn't like, here's a check buyout, which it could have been done that way had I had put systems and SOPs in place. But I learned along the way. Let's say if I was to do it again and that was my goal to exit, I would do it that way right from the beginning. Yet it worked out for me, so the way that I did it was fine. How much money do I need to maintain my ideal lifestyle? This is a great question for entrepreneurs that are building a business so that they can maybe travel, do wonderful things with their life, and also live where they would like to live, etc. Whatever that lifestyle is, you can reverse engineer and determine what that ideal lifestyle would cost. Factoring inflation, you can also know what that ideal life would be over the course to maintain that. And knowing that, then you know how much money that you would make per month. And I also recommend saving and investing, having some money just in case, let's say, the fluctuations of the monthly income, and then investing in long term so that, and this is so helpful, so that eventually you don't rely on that money that's coming in from your business. Let's say the individual is relying upon it. They stop relying upon it. They less and less rely upon it because they have their investments that provide dividends or that goes up in value, and they cash it out every year, and their portfolio still grows, considering the power of compounding interest, which we discussed lately. I'll link in the description to that video where we discuss. So now, good questions to ask with respect to business models and offerings. So we looked at these stimulating questions that provides clarity as to the kind of business model we want to get into, the kind of business we would like to get into, provided that we have an idea, or this also provides ideas that you can move forward with. We can now start to get even more granular and ask questions about the business model and offerings. Here are some questions. Do I prefer selling products, physical products that is, could be digital products as well, services, ideas, or a combination? Do I want to monetize my knowledge, skills, creativity, or a combination? Would I rather sell one high-ticket offer, many small transactions, or a combination of both? We talked about configurations and possibilities of this. I'll link in the description to that video. Do I want a business that requires my daily involvement, one that runs without me, or a specific level of involvement? Am I more excited about teaching others, building something tangible, or a combination of both? Do I prefer a one-time sales, a recurring subscription model, or a combination of both? Would I rather work with a few high-paying clients, serve a mass audience, or a combination of both? How important is location dependence for me? So these are some great questions to ask. As you can see, if you know my story, if you've been following me on my other channel, or if you've checked out my website, josephrodriguez.com, and I have shared aspects of my story throughout these videos, then you know that these questions that I ask are very related to my personal experience. Because that's the way I like to teach. When I teach entrepreneurship, I like to teach based on personal experience and practical results, rather than coming up with theories. Because teaching from your own personal experience, let's say if someone comes to me and wants to bring me on as a consultant, bring me into their organization, I can get very granular and give case studies, tools, steps, experiences, stories, and nuance points to each of these. So you may find the way I teach and the way I discuss entrepreneurship and the aspects that I cover distinct from what is available on the internet. And that, again, proves the point that your way is the best way. Because when you teach from your own personal experience, what happens is you discover the clients that are an ideal match for you. This was the case in my business, when I ran my IT business, consulting, YouTube channel, etc. And these questions, alongside what I just mentioned right now, can really help you refine what you're going to do with your business model. Now, if you would like to further explore, we talked about this a bit recently. I'll link in the description to that video. If you would like me to explore any specific business models, again, I will choose to go with the ones that, if anyone asks me questions with respect to business models, I'll explain the ones that I have experienced with, because there are nuances with various business models. So until I have built a business model to success, I choose not to talk about it, because then it can end up just being a bunch of theory and conjecture, and it's not based on real experience. And I can explore it, if you would like, if I have had a client that I work very closely with that has taken that business model and built it to success. I may even consider bringing them on to my channel. So if there's any specific business model you would like to explore, you could leave in the comment, and I can dedicate a video, or we could include it in upcoming discussions in upcoming videos. So here are some business models examples. Now that we've asked those questions, we can then have greater clarity and say, what business model can we get involved with? There's consulting coaching, which I absolutely love. Selling expertise, high ticket offers, client relationships, programs, even low ticket, combination. I like a combination approach. Now and then I do high ticket. Then you have content creation, which, as mentioned, I built a successful YouTube channel to 400,000 subscribers plus, which can include blogging, which I used to have actually a website, speedreadingzone.com, which I sold to Iris Reading. Personal brand, affiliate income, I've done that as a combination. And all of these can even be combined together. We'll talk about that at the end. E-commerce, digital products. So you can do Shopify, work with clients and do Shopify, Amazon courses, templates. For example, one of my ex-girlfriends, she actually would create templates and sell them. Those templates would make a consistent income flow for a number of months. I don't know if those templates still sell till this day because, let's say, market saturation, etc. Yet, that was a great source of additional revenue. Software and or technology. So experience in this point of sale system I created for restaurants when I had my IT business, providing IT services. And then there's hybrid models. So it's not necessarily you have to do it one way. Mix and match and find a ratio that's ideal for you. Okay, so we've gone 40-something minutes into a lengthy discussion of choosing your style. And we can keep exploring. I'm happy to explore. As you know, I love these conversations. If you have any questions about business models, etc., leave a comment in the description, and then we'll explore, if it's, again, based on personal experience, in an upcoming video. Because there's tons and tons of nuances to entrepreneurship. So I can accurately speak from personal experience. We can get really deep based on personal experience. Now that we've talked about choosing your style, let's talk about consistency and long-term perspective. So as mentioned, I've been an entrepreneur full-time since 2009. Over the years, I've made many millions of dollars. I've created financial freedom for myself, and I've done it for many entrepreneurs as well. Consistency and long-term perspective works. I speak from experience. And also, when we value consistency and long-term perspective in a flow-based way, we can have fun, joy, bliss, happiness, and it can be a love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment-based business, as I talk about on my other channel. And you can enjoy the journey as much as you enjoy the destination, whatever that particular income goal is, financial freedom, etc. You can go about it in a stress, force-based way if you'd like. I recommend the fun, joyous, flow-based way. That's why I created my flow-based prosperity group coaching and mastermind service. It's for entrepreneurs that would like to, based on my personal experience, as mentioned, and also working with thousands of business, facilitate a flow-based, fun, joyous journey to actualize a vision rather than a stress and frustrating one. one where you can have a lavish, steady, dependable income, consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. Notice that part, consistent. Number 2, enjoy a wonderful lifestyle consistently. Number 3, invest for the long term, benefit for compound interest, giving back, helping people. That's one of the greatest joys of making these videos here, is now I get to help entrepreneurs based on personal experience. In the earlier stages, I would study entrepreneurs, and they were really helpful for me. So all 3 of those, consistency gets us there, we could say. The compound effect is what I would like to talk about first with respect to consistency and long-term perspective. What can appear as small steps each day lead to big results. When I was making the YouTube videos in the earlier stages, I didn't get subscribers for a long time to, let's say, a notable amount. And that was totally fine because I diversified by having my consulting business. But as applicable, I would make videos investing into the channel, step by step. 1 video, 2 videos, 5 videos, 10 videos. And I took that approach over the years. For a number of years on the channel, I was doing 1 video a week, step by step. Some of them ended up generating millions of views, some hundreds of thousands, some 50,000, some few thousand. Over the years, it fluctuates. That's totally fine. I'm not relying upon that YouTube channel, not relying upon that as an income source primarily. But the consistency over the course produced results. Why? Because even though the numbers would fluctuate on the views, what would happen was, due to the momentum and people who watched it 3-4 years ago reaching out, there was a consistent amount of people buying my programs, signing for my coaching, joining the mastermind service, for example, business deals, etc. And over the course, I built brand reputation, proving again the power of the compound effect, which many entrepreneurs that enjoy working with me are the ones that value the compound effect. So you could say I demonstrated that over the years. And you could do the same as well in your area. So small steps lead to big results. Compounding growth, whether it be YouTube channel, whether it would be investments, whether it be, for example, what I teach entrepreneurs, not necessarily always the case, but generally I find it to be very helpful. For example, I work with a number of organizations where they have got their system down to, as long as their agents meet 5 new prospects a day, they can achieve their numbers, whatever it may be, 6-figure business, 6-figure sales. And if they would like to do more, they just maybe up that to 7 or 8 prospects a day. So I did that as well. So I generally teach, as a rule of thumb, let's say 5 a day. 5 a day of prospecting sessions. You meet people when you're out and about, events, send out emails. 5 a day compounds over the course. Maybe a few months ago, those individuals reach out to you and they want to do deals now. Power of compounding growth. It also develops momentum and forms the habit. These habits, like making a video, for example, they just happen naturally. It's very easy for me to jump on a camera and make a video now and talk. In the earlier stages, it was a lot more challenging. It is far easier for me to reach out to 5 prospects a day. In the earlier stages, it was challenging. I get excited about if, let's say, I would reach out to 5 prospects a day. I haven't done that in a while because the lead flow is increased to such a degree that one does not need to do it anymore, that I don't need to do it anymore. But in the earlier stages, while I was building my IT business, I would do that. And I also did it in the earlier stages of my consulting practice. But then it got to a time where I stopped because the volume of sales and revenue had increased to the point where it was at the amount that I wanted. And it forms the habit. It also reduces overwhelm and it's sustainable progress. While you can have spikes, and I've experienced that, spikes of money coming in sometimes 1 month or for months stretch, all of a sudden, I don't rely upon that. Just like, for example, the stock market. It may go up and down. Over the course, it goes up. And then there could be a big economic condition and it goes down considerably, maybe 20, 30%. But then over the course, it goes up again. So we're developing that ability to value the incremental steps. Otherwise, people may look for the shiny object syndrome, the quick fix, and that kind of stuff At times it may be helpful, but I don't rely upon it. The next is the importance of valuing the journey. So I value the journey and the destination. While on the journey, I remain in flow. That way, it's sustained motivation. I don't burn out. I am able to acquire mastery on my skills, my ability. I consistently show up each day and refine my abilities. And I build my character along the way. You are ideal now, as I say. You actualize that more so each moment, each day with increasing frequency on a continuous basis. By showing up each day and doing your prospecting session, your sales presentation, your videos, etc. Consistency, ideally from a state of flow. And the numbers go up, the conversions go up. That's it. There isn't any other success secret, let's say, other than remaining in flow, doing what I love to do, the business model that I genuinely love to do, do it from a state of flow, consistency. Sometimes you might get instant results right in the beginning. Great. If not, great. Why? Because of the course, you get the massive results. And also, along the way, you can get spikes of growth, which is totally fine, which can open up new business opportunities, etc. But throughout the journey, you're emotionally regulated, you are in flow, and you're having fun, thanks to the compound effect. So why do entrepreneurs quit soon then? Because they may be identified with shiny object syndrome. They want the next quick fix, whatever video or whatever book that promises a quick fix seemingly. They jump on it, they try it. If it doesn't work, they get frustrated, they think they're doing something wrong. There's nothing wrong with them. Maybe, as mentioned, some of those things can work, but I don't rely upon them. And what I found is the consistency over the years to be helpful since 2009, and I continue to do it each day. People ask me, how do you remain so calm? Well, I found this to personal experience, that by consistently showing up and doing the things that I love to do from a state of flow, and if it appears that I'm doing something I don't love to do, I can optimize, automate, eliminate, delegate it in part or in whole or in combination. So impatience, inconsistency. I just show up each day. Again, and again. Consistency turns into momentum, turns into habit, then you just automatically do it. It's like breathing air. Chasing too many ideas instead of refining one or the ideal amount. I actually like diversification, but I don't do too many things. A few things optimize. If one of them grows, then I focus more on it. If, let's say, a few of them grow, I put attention in that direction. And then let's say a few of them have grown and I've got some space, some resources, some time, some energy to allocate into exploring a new opportunity, then I explore it. That's how my YouTube channel started. And then when it began to pick up traction, I invested more in it. As mentioned, there was a time where I was doing one video a week consistently when I committed to, then 2 videos a week, then 3 videos a week. Now I still do 3 videos a week. I just do 1 on this channel and 2 on my other one. The next is building consistency and avoiding burnout. So the way we build consistency and avoid burnout is to set habits. For example, 5 new prospects a day. That is an easy way, I found, to grow a business. See, an entrepreneur may get involved with all kinds of fancy techniques and this and that, when what I found was the simplest, and I've worked with many entrepreneurs over the years, thousands and thousands, the ones that succeeded, brought it down to consistent amount of prospects a day. They consistently went for a particular amount of prospects a day. A number of them converted. They achieved their monthly goals. They improved their consultative sales. They may have added more prospects a day. The numbers go up. Their business grows. Then they bring on maybe a sales manager or a sales professional, and they continue to scale. I've seen this happen again and again and again. So we could say an example would be what I like to start when I'm working with an entrepreneur is 5 prospects a day, 1 sales presentation a day. 5 prospects a day, 1 sales presentation a day. Where did I get this from? This has been so effective for me. I realized that this was true for all areas of life. Let's say you move to a new city. You can meet 5 new people a day. You may have time to hang out with 1 person a day. So rather than see it as a sales presentation, you're building a wonderful, harmonious relationship, friendship, hobbies, enjoying life. But the same can be applied with an entrepreneurial flair to entrepreneurship and sales. 5 new prospects a day. Can meet them online, offline, events, mix and match. I don't consider one way better than another, freestyle, really. And then 1 deep dive sales presentation a day. Again, more details on that in a recent video. I'll link in the description. So as mentioned, what we're discussing here is going to go into my new book that I'm going to be releasing on entrepreneurship. If you're interested in that, link in the description to the mind map and also notification of when the book is released. Tracking progress, journals, milestones, KPIs, spreadsheets. As you know, if you're a student of my entrepreneurial program, I have very extensive spreadsheets to track KPIs. Not to overwhelm. If you don't want to do it, bring someone on your team to do it and focus on the high leverage KPIs. And then pivoting, as mentioned, these ideas seen into fruition may be pivoted in particular ways to get the success you're looking for. When I got into IT business, for example, when I got into it, I thought that it was just going to be office IT solutions. But I pivoted a little bit and I started creating point of sale systems for restaurants. I started to provide some mixture of IT and consulting, some IT consulting in the space of sales marketing, which then ended up getting the IT deals. I started to get some clients who were interested in putting websites up and the email lists hooked up to their websites. So I'd build WordPress websites and do an IT package with them. And let's say if I didn't want to do it, I would have contractors that would take care of some of the pieces of the deal. And then these opened up additional revenue streams. And then I pivoted, we could say, over to my YouTube channel and consulting. And even my YouTube channel, I've pivoted over the years on various topics. Because the thing is, again, I genuinely love to talk about what I love to talk about. Keeping all of these things in consideration, you can see if you've been following my journey over the years, I've been doing these things. I've asked myself these questions. That's how I came up with the decision to pivot. I check in with intuition. As mentioned, I exclusively listen to intuition. And I also relate intuition and logic together. So these questions can be very relatable so that you can flow on the path of lavish, steady, dependable income consistent with integrity and mutual benefit. So another aspect of long-term perspective and scaling is once you have traction, consider optimizing, automating, delegating, eliminating, in part or in whole or in combination, the things that you don't love to do, the things that are not, let's say, your high leverage areas. Harmonize also working on the business. For example, when we're having these conversations, we're working on the business. We're taking a bird's eye view and in the business. In the business would be providing the services, doing the sales, etc. I value both. I work on the business at a particular ratio during the week. And that's one of the reasons why I created this channel. So I could have these conversations with you so that together I can also look at, let's say, what I would like to do perhaps in the future, because I love entrepreneurship. As mentioned, even though I don't need to do these things, I genuinely love to do these things because this is what I find to be very stimulating and inspiring and what I naturally love to do, which answers one of the questions we brought up earlier. So by having this conversation with you or with a consultant or a coach or a mentor, what happens is you can bird's eye view mastermind, you can bird's eye view work on the business. You can do it by yourself as well. And then you can go into the business with a more refreshing perspective. You may go into the business then optimizing, automating, delegating, eliminating part or in whole or in combination to refine your business model. I'm a fan of optimization. I see business, like with everything, ongoing refinement, as Steve Jobs also mentioned. It's a relationship with every wonderful relationship. It always gets better with time as you refine it. So next is embracing challenge as a growth process. So this is where challenge meets skill while you're in flow. So I remain in my flow. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, in his wonderful book, Flow, talks about how there's an access point to the flow in challenge. You can actually embrace challenge and enter into the flow. If we go about entrepreneurship this way, you experience flow more so, rather than stress and frustration, which is what I teach, the flow-based way. So we can embrace challenge as a growth process, a perspective shift. Every challenge is an opportunity. Every challenge that you have on your business each day, whether it be on the innovation side, the sales side, the marketing side, the operations, the finance, the leadership side, is an opportunity. And that's all I did over the years. And that's what I teach. And every entrepreneur that I've worked with that's succeeded, that's what they did. Consistent opportunity, seeing the challenge as an opportunity. Consistent seeing the challenge as an opportunity and optimizing it. Optimize, automate, delegate, eliminate. I even created a rhyme because I say that so much. Optimization, automation, delegation, elimination, in part or in whole or in combination, so that I don't forget that there's always a way I could transmute the challenge in an opportunity. And that's it. Consistency, again and again and again, and results happen. No fancy technique required, as I say sometimes. Pivot as applicable, but don't abandon the opportunity prematurely. So I'm glad I stayed with it over the long term, so that not only did I get the results, the milestones, every one of them were achieved, I just set new milestones. They might be different. Maybe in the earlier stages, it was more so about making money. There's nothing wrong with that because you genuinely want to have financial freedom. Yet later on, I said, well, flow-based opportunities, what's more fun, where I can spread this message further. And I started coming up with different criteria. Yet generally, these are the same kind of questions and the way I go about doing it. And you can do the same as well. So I trust you enjoyed today's presentation, From Idea to $1 Million. Again, the copy of this mind map, The Path to Consistency and Success. The copy of this mind map is available for download in the description. You can enjoy a copy. I recommend going through these questions. I trust you'll benefit greatly from doing so. Thank you very much, and we'll talk soon. Take care.